This is the Ramana Maharshi Self-Knowledge Satsang, a time for self-reflection and self-inquiry. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. I'm a seeker like you, sharing what we love. I've been blessed with years of deep teaching. I bring this to you with this satsang. The background image today is Alamarathu Guhai Cave. Ramana lived here for 6 months before he went further up the hill to Virupaksha Cave. This is a site that is not visited much by Ramana devotees. It's also called Satguru Swami Cave and Banyan Cave. Of this area, Ramana said, quoted from Day by Day with Bhagavan, quote, I lived in the cave now called Alamarathu Guhai for some time. There was no banyan tree then. That tree, as well as all the trees on both sides of the Virupaksha cave, were all planted and watered by Kanda Swami, who planted, who planned and created Skandinashram later. Our guide, Saran, knew about this place since he had lived on this very hillside and attended a school that is next to it. As far as I can find out, the ashram that is there now was started in the 1970s by Sundara Raman Swamigal. Before that, in 1922, Papa Ramdas met Ramana, and as a result of this meeting, then Papa Ramdas went into his first retreat, living for 21 days in this cave. After this time, he emerged, saying, all was Ram, nothing but Ram. All was God, nothing but God. I have some photos taken when Carol and I visited in 2009. First, here is a map of the area just so you can get a little orientation. To the right is Arunachaleshwara Temple, the big temple. And then there's a road in yellow that goes up the hill and to Banyan Tree Cave. That's what this is called on this map. A little further up that path is Guhai Namashivaya, where Ramana stayed for a while. And then further in the upper left is Virupaksha Cave, where Ramana lived for many years. This is uh, starting going through a village, and we go up the hill. Now we're on a stone path up the hill, more climbing up the hill. And there it is to the right of the path. This is a little closer. It looks interesting. We have to go up the stairs in front. Here's the sign above the entrance. And in the entrance, there are pictures of Ramana and someone else, probably the founder of the ashram, Sundara Raman Swamigal. And then there's a reminder to surrender yourself before you go in. And inside the cave, then there's a ledge. This is probably where Ramana slept. And on this ledge is a shrine to Ramana. And this is a close up. And now we're outside again, looking up the hill. A little further up this path is Guhai Namah Shivaya. And now on to this week's reading from Who Am I? We're at paragraph 36 now. Ramana's words. One should realize the self by the eye of wisdom. Does Rama need a mirror to recognize himself as Rama? That to which the eye refers is within the five sheaths: physical, vital, mental, knowledge, experience, and bliss, whereas the scriptures are outside them. Therefore, it is futile to seek by means of study of the scripture the self that has to be realized by summarily rejecting even the five sheaths. No amount of reading will bring self-realization. Practice is like looking in a mirror, only more internal and much deeper. It is looking into what you think as yourself. As you trace the source of your own sense of I, you will find that it's something deeper than you previously thought. This sense of I, of existence or reality, is deeper than the body, these senses, this life force, this mind. To find it, it must be realized for yourself. Aids to this are study of the scripture, negation, which is rejecting the five sheaths as not oneself, and devotion to the teacher and what he teaches. The negation process looks in three different ways. Is it objective and known by me? Is it changing or what is always? Is it inert or conscious? If it is known to me, then I am the knower, not the known. If it changes or has a beginning or end, then it's not me. I am the unchanging. If it is inert, then it's not me, for I am always the consciousness. Why is it to be found through this negation? Since the self is already and always present, what the seeker needs to do is to remove the false ideas that seem to stand in front of the self. And then what is found? The self can never be negated since it is always present. How do you remove the false ideas? Through knowledge. In this case, knowledge of the self, through what is within you always, what is always the knower and never the known, what is present rather than anything that comes and goes, what is always conscious and aware. Know that. Now, on to our videos for the week. First is Swami Sarvapriyananda. Here, this talk is a little longer than I usually play, but stay with it. It's a very good talk about the five sheaths and this negation that Ramana talked about.
The Upanishad tells us that if we look at ourselves, we will find 5 layers, 5 sheaths of our being. And this is compared poetically to a cave, or maybe a system of caves. You know, there is a saying in Sanskrit, in the Himalayas, where Vedanta is compared to a lion, Vedanta Kesari. The saying goes that when the lion in the deep, dark, gloomy forests of philosophy, when the lion of Vedanta roars, all the jackals of other philosophies run for their lives. Now, I'm sure other philosophies would beg to differ. It's what the Vedantins like to think about themselves, you know. But anyway, the lion of Vedanta is in the cave. And the cave is not one cave, but it's an interlocking cave system of 5 caves or 5 sheaths of the human personality. And that's what we are going to do. We are going to go deep into those caves and confront the lion of Vedanta, Vedanta Keshari. But you need not be scared, because the lion is you yourself. It's your true nature. It's who we really are. We're going to find that out this morning. Now, the method taken up by the Upanishads is that of a very good teacher. A good teacher, always takes the student from where the student is to where the teacher wants the student to be. From the near to the far. From what is to what shall be. From the known to the unknown. It's a poor teacher who comes and says, Brahman is infinity, existence, consciousness, and bliss. What? But what the Upanishad says, follow me. We shall go step by step. We shall start with what is most obvious to all of us, which none of us can deny. We want to find out who we are. Well, the Upanishad says, who do you think you are right now? And our answer is, I'm this. This is who I am. This body. And the Upanishad starts there. It seems in ancient India, and I don't know if it's true now, when the husband and wife, they get married, and there was one of the rituals in the marriage is to show a faint star in the night sky called the Arundhati. Now, the bride is shown that star step by step. So first, you point out to a tree, a branch of a tree, and then they say that look at the bright star just above the tip of that branch. And then look near that bright star, just below it, there's that faint star, and near it is another fainter star. If you point to that faint star straight away, you know it. But the girl doesn't know it. You have to take her step by step. So the objective is not the branch of the tree. The objective is not even the brighter stars. The objective is the faint star called Arundhati. In Sanskrit, this is called Arundhati Nyaya, the process, methodology of Arundhati. When you go from the known to the unknown, every good teacher does it. Any school teacher knows this method. The Upanishad says, all right, since we are most familiar with the body, let's start with the body. You think you are the body, we want to know who we are, who I am. I feel I am the body, let's start with the body. This body is called Annamaya, literally pervaded by food. This body is what we eat and drink. I heard a lecture by a scientist who said, you are food rearranged. Food is presented to you on your table in our breakfast or in lunch. You have food arranged in front of us. Rearrange that food and that's us. That's what the scientist said. Vedanta would agree, almost. Vedanta would say, yes, the body is food rearranged. In the name of the body given in the Upanishad is Annamaya, pervaded by food. It's a product of food. It's a modification of what we eat and drink. I often quote this Italian actress who said, the secret of my beauty, the secret of this, it's pasta. So, Annamaya, this physical body of skin and bone and flesh, this is Annamaya. Now, the Upanishad says, take a close look at this. Are we really this body? Are you really this body? You say, why not? Well, for to begin with, there are so many reasons, one after another, powerful reasons, disturbing reasons, which show us that why we cannot be the body. First of all, the body changes. So, the same body was the body of a little boy or girl, then a teenager, then a young man or woman, now a middle-aged man or woman, an old person. So much change in the body, from that little guy to this old person, so much change, and yet we feel, I am the same person. I was the one who was a little kid, I am the one who's an old man. Vachaspati Mishra, the great 10th century Vedanta scholar, he was a prodigy, he was a master of different philosophies, so he has written books in different Hindu philosophies. He is called Sarvatantra Swatantra Acharya, the master who is independent of all philosophies. Anyhow, he has a beautiful book called Bhamati, where he explains Advaita Vedanta. It's a commentary on Shankaracharya's commentary on the Brahma Sutras. He says, touchingly, I, who was a little boy playing on the lap of my grandfather, am now sitting with my grandson on my lap. Yet I am the same one. There's this elderly lady who told me just a few months ago. She was walking past a shopping window and she saw the reflection and she said, the first thought in her mind was, who's this old lady? And she says, it's me. And then she says, it just seemed just 30 years ago I was this young girl. If you think about it psychologically, what a tremendous change this body is undergoing. I don't think that the little guy was somebody else and the middle-aged man was somebody else and now I'm somebody else. No, I think I'm the same person. If I am the same person, the body is certainly not the same. Body is certainly not the same. Body is changing continuously. How can I be the body? Another thing. The body is always an object. Do I know the body? Yes, I'm always aware of the body. I can see the body, I can touch the body. Internally, I can always feel the body. That's what's pain. And I can smell, unfortunately, smell the body. So all five senses operate on the body, very clearly revealed to the five senses. I am the knower of the body. The body is a known object. In Sanskrit, I am the drashta, body is drishya. How can I be the body? The knower and the known are two different entities. So the knower is me, obviously. That's what I feel. I never feel the body is knowing me. I look at the hand and I feel I am looking at my hand. I never get the feeling that the hand is looking back at me. That would be so weird. We never get that feeling. Think about it. And what is true of the hand is true of the entire body. You look at the body. You sense the body. The body is not doing that to you. So you are the drashta, the seer. And the body is the seen. We are not the body. Other examples. Always we think of ourselves as conscious. We never think of ourselves as unconscious. And the body is something that we are conscious of. The drashta and drishya is one reason. Slightly different but related reason is what they say in Sanskrit. Body is jada, inert, insentient. We always regard ourselves as chetana, sentient, aware. We are beings of consciousness, beings of awareness. Whatever we think about ourselves, we first of all know that we are aware, sentient. The body is not. To the extent that the body is sentient, it is pervaded by my sentiency. I pervade the body as a sentient being. So the body is not me. Vidyaranya, in the 3rd chapter of the Panchadashi, has an opponent, as a student or a questioner, ask him, here are the 5 sheets which you have so beautifully pointed out to me. There is nothing apart from these 5 sheets to know. There's nothing apart from them to know. What else is there? Let's look at ourselves very carefully. We have found only these 5 things. What are these 5 sheets? Take an example. I'll quickly summarize what we have done so far in a sentence. Here is my hand. What I see here, the skin and inside it, the flesh and the bones and the blood, this is the Annamaya, the food sheet. When I lift my hand, the energy which enables me to move my hand is the Pranamaya. The thought, I must lift my hand, that's the Manomaya, the mind sheath. The feeling, I am lifting my hand, that knowledge, that identity, the agent of action, Kartritva in Sanskrit, that is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And if there is any happiness associated with lifting the hand, that is percolated down from the Anandamaya Kosha. We might smile, what happiness is there in lifting the hand? Well, go to a physiotherapy unit. Oh yes. Person who has had a stroke, struggling days and weeks and months and finally beginning to lift the hand a little bit. So much happiness. So that comes from the Anandamaya Kosha. So these are the 5 layers of our personality. What else is there? There is nothing. That is the question. Here comes the story of the 10 persons who crossed the river. I have told this earlier, but it's relevant here. 10 friends crossed a river. And after they swam across, or they waded across, on the other side, someone thought that, have we all crossed or did anybody drown? Let's count. And one of them counted. Line up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, the 10th person, our friend, has drowned. The other person said, you couldn't have counted correctly. Let me count. And he counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they all sit down and start sobbing. Boos were hooed. Boo-hoo. So a wise person inevitably walks by and he says, why are you crying, my friends? Well, we were 10 and we crossed the river and one of us drowned and so we are sad. And this person takes a quick count and he sees there are 10 of them, of course. He says, how do you know that the 10th person is drowned? Well, we counted, sir, and we can find only 9. The wise man says, he gets it, what has happened. And he says to them, most important, calm down, don't cry. The 10th person is there, believe me. The Guru comes and tells us, you are not the body and mind, you are the immortal conscious self, pure consciousness itself. Believe me, right now, to begin with. They say, where is the 10th person? You haven't seen it yet, but believe me, calm down, relax, I'll show it to you. So they trust him, okay, show us, line up. And you, my friend, count. I have counted, count. I'll show you, you count. All right, if you say so, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that wise person comes, holds his hand, turns it around. Thou art the 10th. 10. Dashamas Tvamasi. And this person says, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, the 10th person has been found. What joy. And his friend says, let me try it. And he does the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they were all illumined. And thus goes the story. Vidyaranya says, though you may laugh at this story, we are always doing the same thing. We are doing the same thing. Here is the secret. What Vidyaranya says to the person who asked the question, we see the 5 sheets, we experience them. Where is this Atman you promised? Where is the self you promised? Vidyaranya says, watch this. What did you say? Did you not say that I experienced the 5 sheets? That the 5 sheets are experienced? Body and mind and intellect and so forth, they are experienced? Yes. If they are experienced, there must be an experiencer. True. If they are experienced, there must be an experiencer. Then who is that experiencer? What is that experiencer? This was Vidyaranya's first point. You are looking for an object. What was the mistake of the person counting? He was counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He was looking for one more, 10 out there. The 10th one is not out there. It is the one who was counting. Vidyarnya tells us exactly like that. When you consider the body and the life forces and the mind and the intellect and the darkness beyond the intellect, who is the one watching all of them? That one is not an object. Your mistake, our mistake, a fundamental and very natural mistake, is to look for an object. When they tell you there is an Atman, Brahman, our first unconscious, natural instinct is to go out there and look for an object of knowledge called Brahman or Atman, and we don't find it. We don't find it, Vidyarnya says, Natu asattaya, not because it does not exist, but it is the one who is seeking. It is not an object of seeking, it is the one who is seeking. The second point that Vidyarnya makes is that when you want to know the subject, you see, the problem is this. He says the field of knowledge. Remember, we are on a journey of spiritual knowledge. Vidyarnya makes an important point. He borrows from the Kena Upanishad. He says the field of knowledge is divided into the known and the unknown. There are things that we know, things, books we have read, people we have met, foods we have eaten, places we have visited. These are things which are known. And there are places we have not visited, books we have not read, theories we do not understand, people we have not met, experiences we have not had. So these are the field of the unknown. This is our field of knowledge, known and unknown. Apart from the known and unknown, what is there? Yes, the knower. The entire field of knowledge can be divided into the known and the unknown, but quite apart from that is the knower. That's why the Upanishad says, the one who thinks that the Atman is known as an object, he does not know the Atman. The one who says the Atman is unknown, he's still thinking it's an object, looking for it. He does not know the Atman. It's neither known nor unknown. It is the knower. That's the beautiful second point that Vidyarnya makes. It is the subject, it's not an object of knowledge. Objects of knowledge are known and unknown. Many things which we know, many things we do not know, we will know, many things we may not be able to know in our lifetimes. But the self, you, are none of them. You are the subject. So you are neither the known nor the unknown. Anya deva tad viditad aviditad adhi. The Kena Upanishad says, and Vidyarnya quotes, the self, you, I am apart from all that I know and apart from all that I do not know. I am the self itself. Now if I still persist, okay, I know it's not an object of knowledge, still I would like to know it. Vidyarnya gives a fantastic example. He says, consider this example. There is sugar, there is water, and there is milk. If I add sugar to the water, it becomes sweet. If I add sugar to the milk, it becomes sweet. So how does water become sweet? By adding sugar. How does milk become sweet? By adding sugar. So to make something sweet, you have to add sugar. Now there are many things in the world. How do I know them? By adding consciousness. Literally meaning you become conscious of them. By bringing them into relation with consciousness. Here is this microphone. How do I know this microphone? By bringing it into relationship with my consciousness. It's a fancy way of saying looking at it. So I look at it. That means my consciousness becomes aware of it. So to know anything, you have to add consciousness to it. Just as to make anything sweet, you have to add sugar to it. Now if you ask, Vidyarnya says, if you ask, how do I make sugar sweet? So I have to add sugar to make it sweet. Because anything to make it sweet, you have to add sugar. If you say that, then how do I make sugar sweet? That means the rule is you have to add sugar to it. So what sugar will I add to sugar to make it sweet? It's a foolish question. Sugar has inherent sweetness, which it lends to other things. Consciousness, you don't have to become conscious of consciousness. Consciousness is what they call swaprakasha, self-luminous. It illumines everything else and reveals itself in the act of illumining everything else. Let me repeat that. In every act of knowledge, you, the self, are revealed. You, the consciousness, is revealed in every act of knowledge. Eyes, How are the eyes revealed? How do you know that you have got eyes? By seeing things. By seeing what? The first answer is to say that by seeing your own eyes. You don't have to see your own eyes to say that you've got eyes. You have to see, if you see anything at all, it's a proof that you have got eyes. In the same way, I am consciousness. This pure self is consciousness. It is revealed in every act of knowledge. You don't have to add consciousness to it. You don't have to make consciousness an object of consciousness. No. The fourth point that Vidyaranya makes is, he says, it is indeed shameful if we say, if I say aloud, I don't have a tongue. The very act of speaking makes it a lie that I don't have a tongue. You understand? If I say it out loud, I don't have a tongue. The very act, he says, lajja. It is a shameful statement to say that I do not have a tongue. If I speak it aloud, it means I have a tongue. How did I speak otherwise? No matter what I say. Shankaracharya says, yaeva asya nirakarta tasyaiva atmasa. Whoever is the denier of the self is the self of that very person. Without that consciousness, how could you deny something? Who or what is denying? That's the fourth point Vidyaranya makes. And the fifth point is rather amusing. It's a technical point. Here he is in debate with the Buddhist nihilist. The Buddhist nihilist who says, Shunyam, the nature of the Atman is nothing, void. To be fair to the Buddhist nihilist, Shunyavadi, he actually does not say this. Though we Vedantins, we say that, we put words in their mouths. If you actually go to their scriptures, Nagarjuna's Moola Madhyamaka Karika, what he says there is very much like what we say in Advaita Vedanta. But anyway, supposing someone comes and says, the self does not exist. The 5 sheaths are there. If you open that, like the peeling the onions, layers of an onion, nothing remains after that. It's zero, nothing. Then Vidyaranya says, in a debate, you need an opponent. In Sanskrit, it's called Vadi, Prativadi. Vadi is the person who is debating, and Prativadi is the opponent who holds the opposite view. Now, in this case, the Prativadi, the Buddhist Shunyavadi, has said the Atman does not exist, or the self does not exist. So he does not exist. So the Prativadi does not exist. There is no opponent. Hence, I have won the debate. To whom will I reply? You don't exist. If you say that there is no real self within, it's a void. It's a technical point he's making. And I think he is half joking. He says, if my worthy opponent says that there is no Atman, the self, it's void, there's nothing, then he does not exist. The opponent is self-dissolved, dissolves himself, poof, vanishes. Whom will I reply to? So I need not reply to that question. So that's the fifth point he makes, because the Prativadi dissolves by his own admission. It's, again, I'll reply and I'll point out here, the Buddhist nihilist actually does not say that. He's not really a nihilist. One interpretation of the Shunyavada school of Buddhism, the Madhyamaka Buddhism, is very Vedantic actually. In many ways it's very Vedantic. Sharat Maharaj, Swami Sharadanandaji, the author of the Great Master, he says, what they call the void, Shunyam, we call the fullness, whole, Purnam. What they call Shunyam, we call Purnam. Exactly the same thing. So, these are the 5 points Vidyaranya says. See, the problem at this point when we say that we are not the physical body, we are not the life sheath, we are not the mental sheath, the intellect sheath, or the bliss sheath. The problem here is twofold. One is we feel, then where is the Atman? Which one? We're still looking for an object. And the second problem is, if you say that there is no object called the Atman, immediate reaction will be, oh, so there is no Atman. So both of these are set aside by Vidyaranya, these 5 points. The first point being that story of the 10 persons who crossed the river. It's not an object out there. Second point being, you are neither something known nor something unknown. You are the knower. Third point being, to know the knower, you don't need to add more consciousness to it, like adding more sugar to make sugar sweet. It is self-revealed in every act of knowledge. The fourth point being, it is shameful to say that I do not exist. Then who's saying it? Something is there which is saying it. It's like saying I have no tongue. And the last point, of course, is a technical point. In a debate, both the Prativadi cannot dissolve himself, then he's lost it if it disappears. So, the conclusion we come to is, the secret of the 5 sheaths is this consciousness which is illumining the 5 sheaths right now. Not only that, I'm not going into it, but I must mention it before concluding. It's not that we have separated a consciousness from the 5 sheaths. Here are the 5 sheaths and here is one consciousness. Then the Upanishad goes on to tell us that it is this consciousness alone which appears as the 5 sheaths. I'll repeat that. The 5 sheaths of our personality, the body, mind, and so on, they are not objects separate from consciousness. They arise in our consciousness. They have no objective existence apart from consciousness. In fact, I'll tell you, the Upanishad can be a little misleading. What it is doing is asking us to go deep within ourselves to discover this existence, consciousness, bliss, the witness consciousness within, the witness of the 5 sheaths. That's what we have been doing so far. But it's misleading in the sense, it's just like saying, if somebody says, here is a huge wave, and you say the reality is water. How will you discover water? If I tell you, go deep inside the wave, you will find water. You don't have to go deep inside the wave. The wave, the whole thing is water. It's just the form and a name. In the same way, these forms of the body, of life, of mind, of intellect, and the blankness beyond the intellect, they arise and shine in our consciousness and subside within our consciousness. The whole thing is consciousness. That is what the Upanishad is going to point out after this secret of the 5 sheaths. Discover pure consciousness and then see the entire system of caves as nothing more than pure consciousness. Names and forms, body and mind, arising and shining and subsiding back into consciousness. All of it is consciousness. All of it is existence, consciousness, infinity. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Just as you don't have to go deep within the table to discover wood, you don't have to go deep within a clay pot to discover clay, or deep within a wave to discover water. It is all water, or all clay, or all wood. In the same way, all the 5 sheaths, once we realize what pure consciousness is, they are all pure consciousness. That is our true nature. Having discovered that, we discover an immortal, unchanging reality. Mortality is in the body. Disease and decay are in the life forces. Happiness and sadness and desire and frustration are in the mind. Ignorance and knowledge are in the intellect. All of these are in the 5 sheaths. None of them are in the pure consciousness which we already are at this moment. We are immortal, pure, infinite consciousness existence. Right now, as Swami Vivekananda said, if only you would see yourself as you truly are. Right now. All of spiritual life, we'll discuss that later, all of spiritual life is meant to bring us to this understanding. Not in a lecture, not in notes, but actually as a living reality. Just as today we feel we are this body, we must feel, actually know, realize that we are infinite existence consciousness.
And now Nome, and Nome will talk about certain knowledge.
This self is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. Is one of the Mahavakyas, or great aphorisms, of the Upanishads. In order to grasp its significance, you must first know yourself. And if yourself is known, then you know you are Brahman, the vast absolute. If yourself is known, then there remains nothing else to know or to be known. Brahman, or the Self, is of the nature of infinite being, consciousness bliss. Without another, without division, without duality. The first thing then is to know yourself. Unless you know yourself, how can you know what is real? Unless you know yourself, how can you know God? If you do know yourself, the reality, God, the self, yourself, are all one and the same. Therefore, in the Maharshi's instructions, emphasis is placed always on self-knowledge, the means for which is the profound inquiry within yourself, who am I? All the views one might hold about God, the world, and whatever else there may be, all those views are dependent upon the definition of oneself. However you conceive of yourself determines how you will view all these. The definition of I determines the definition of this. If you would know yourself as you truly are, as the undifferentiated existence, consciousness, bliss, you would find neither I nor this. The real existence is undivided, without beginning and without end. For the sake of your own perpetual peace, perpetual bliss, you must know this existence, your own existence, as it is, as you are. If you would only do two things, cease to misidentify with the body, and abandon the false assumption of existing as an individual entity, you would know yourself. That is, Brahman would know Brahman, for there is no other to do so. Consider your experience. Past, present, and future makes no difference. What do you regard as yourself? Do you consider yourself a body, or as if embodied, as a sensing entity? What do you regard yourself as? Do you regard yourself as one who performs activities? Do you think of yourself in terms of birth, living, death? These and other such attributes all belong to the body. Are you the body? Whatever be your experience, whatever it is, in whatever form it appears, it depends on the experiencer. Who is that one? To try to determine what is without first knowing yourself is like chasing after echoes. Make your vision non-objective and seek your own nature. If the question naturally arises, who should seek his own nature? That's precisely the inquiry indicated. What is it that is referred to as I? If it is assumed, to be individualized, whether defined in terms of the body, or by the mind, or with any other kind of definition, then there will appear to be multiplicity. The real nature of the self, which is non-ego, being veiled. Multiplicity is projected within the sphere of imagination. The multiplicity must be for someone. Experience must be for someone. Who is that someone? If you inquire to know yourself like this, the unreal, from the ego down to the form of the world, being unreal, will cease. The reality, whichever is, always existing, remains. What then has happened? Nothing has happened, but Maya, illusion, or samsara, the repetitive cycle of birth and death, has been abolished. The illusion of bondage is no more, and this is said to be liberation, but it is liberation from imagined bondage. The ego is then said to have died, but how could something that was not born really die? Yet it and all the troubles born of imagination are over. Said to be the greatest attainment in human life, really it is not something gained anew. Sri Bhagavan has said, there is no attainment and no time in which to attain. That which is timeless, spaceless, objectless, birthless, and imperishable is your own being. It is the only self that you are. There is not another kind of self. Therefore, sadhana or spiritual practice does not involve the individual self attaining to that. It is merely the self-revelation of that in its own innate knowledge. There is no other kind of self. That is why the Upanishad said, I am Atma Brahma. The self is Brahman. Dive within yourself and verify this for your own experience.
And now we'll take a few minutes to meditate, to inquire. First, just notice that you exist. You exist, and you know that you exist. And now inquire, investigate within yourself, within your actual experience right now. Can you be the body? Does the body say I? You know the body, so you cannot be the body. You are the knower. Can you be the senses? Like the body, you know the senses, so you cannot be the senses. You are the knower, not the known. Can you be the flow of breath, of prana, of life energy within this body? You know this life energy, so the life energy cannot be you. Can you be a thought? You know thought, so you cannot be a thought. You know the thought doesn't know you. Thoughts change, you do not. Can you be the quiet mind? You know this quiet mind, so you cannot be even this quiet mind. Who knows all that is known? Who are you? Who am I? All right, now we'll end with a short chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. If this satsang was of interest to you, I have more, a free book site, a YouTube site, and my blog. The URLs will be on the screen next. These satsangs will continue in the coming weeks with this series based on the Ramana Maharshi book, Who Am I? Thank you for letting me share this teaching with you.